The night was heavy with rain, and the colony streets were almost empty. The lamps gave only weak light, and the air smelled of metal and dust. Humans hurried to their homes, afraid of the thunder that echoed above. But one sound was not thunder. It was something different, something alive. A crash shook the ground near the outer wall of the colony. Dust and sparks filled the air, and guards looked at each other with fear. Some thought it was a meteor. Others whispered it was worse. Nobody wanted to go near. Nobody wanted to face what had fallen. Only one man moved closer. His name was Daniel, a worker with tired eyes. He had lived in the colony all his life, fixing machines and carrying heavy loads. He had seen many strange things, but nothing like this. Something inside him told him to go forward. Even when others stepped back through the smoke, he saw a shape. Broken, moving slowly, it was not human. It was taller, thinner. Its skin glowing faintly blue. One arm hung useless. Its chest rose and fell with heavy gasps. Its eyes opened, golden and full of pain. Staring right at him, the crowd whispered. "An alien," some said. "One of the outcasts," others spat. Daniel had heard the stories. Aliens who were cast away by their own kind. Beasts who betrayed their species, who were hunted like animals. To meet one was dangerous, to help one was worse. The alien fell to its knees. Its body trembling, Daniel saw fear there. Not anger, not hatred, but pure fear, and then it spoke. Voice broken, words shaking. "Hold me, human." It begged. The crowd gasped. Some pulled back, some raised stones. "Kill it before it brings trouble," shouted one man. "Call the guards, hand it over," cried another. But Daniel could not move. His heart beat faster, his hands shook. He saw the alien's wounds, the blood dark against the rain. He saw the loneliness in its eyes, the same loneliness he felt many nights. A creature cast away, a creature unwanted, a creature desperate. And he knew that if he turned away now, it would die alone in the mud. Daniel stepped closer. Ignoring the shouts behind him, he knelt down and touched the alien's shoulder. It flinched but then leaned against him. Weak and heavy, its skin was cold like ice yet alive, trembling under his hand. "Why me?" Daniel whispered, but no answer came. The alien only breathed out, whispering again, "Hold me, human." For a moment the world was silent, only the rain falling on their heads. In that moment Daniel felt something change inside him. The colony guards arrived, shouting, their weapons glowing red. "Step away," one ordered. "That thing is dangerous." Daniel looked back, but his arms stayed around the alien. He could feel its heart, faint, slowing, struggling to keep beating. "What has it done to you?" asked a guard. "Nothing," Daniel answered. "It only asked me to hold it." Laughter and anger broke out among the crowd. "Fool," they shouted. "It will bring death on all of us." But Daniel's eyes did not leave the alien. He saw more than fear. He saw a secret, something deeper. The alien's golden eyes glowed for a moment, as if showing him a truth he could not yet understand, but one that would change everything. The guards raised their weapons. The crowd moved back in fear. Daniel's heart pounded. He had no plan, no reason, no strength. Only a choice stood before him, to let go and save himself, or to hold on and risk everything. The alien's body grew heavier, its voice weaker. "Please," it whispered, the words fading with each breath. Daniel tightened his grip, rain washing the dirt from their faces, and with that choice the path of his life was sealed. Above the colony, lights moved in the clouds. Not thunder, not storm, but ships, searching, hunting. The outcast alien was not alone. Others were coming, and Daniel, without knowing, had just placed himself in the middle of a war. The crowd began to scream as the sky lit with strange beams. The guards shouted for people to run, to hide, to pray. But Daniel only looked down at the broken stranger in his arms. He whispered, "I will not let go." And the alien closed its eyes in relief. The night that began with rain would end in blood and fire. The human who chose to hold an outcast had no idea what was coming. But destiny had found him, and it would not let him escape. The broken stranger had brought danger, yes, but also something more. A story that would shake the stars, and it had only just begun. The colony was restless after the crash. Whispers filled the narrow streets. Some said the alien would bring death. Others said it was a curse from the stars. The guards argued about what to do. The leaders debated in secret halls. But Daniel, the machine worker, had already made his choice. He carried the broken alien to an old storage shelter on the edge of the colony. It was dark, full of rusting tools and forgotten machines. He laid the alien gently on the floor, covering it with a torn blanket. The alien's golden eyes opened weakly, staring at him with quiet trust. "Why are you helping me?" the alien asked in a voice that cracked. Daniel hesitated, his hands still shaking from fear and doubt. "I don't know," he answered softly. "But I couldn't leave you there." The alien closed its eyes for a moment, whispering, "Then I will tell you the truth." Its words were slow, heavy but clear. "I am called Serac. Once a soldier of my people, now cast away." Daniel leaned closer. Listening, every part of him alert, Serac explained that he refused a cruel war, refused to kill innocent worlds. For that, his people branded him a traitor, an outcast to be hunted. Daniel's chest tightened. He had heard of alien wars, but never like this. "Why come here?" he asked. "Why risk everything to land on our colony?" Serac coughed, his body trembling. "Because your kind is different. Because your kind still has hope." His eyes glowed faintly, as if showing the human his pain and his faith. Daniel felt the weight of those words, but also fear pressing harder on him. If the colony discovered Serac, they would hand him over in an instant. If the alien hunters found him, they would burn the colony to ashes. Every path was dangerous. Every step could mean death. That night, Daniel tried to bring water and food. The alien touched the cup with trembling hands, but dropped it. His strength was failing, his body broken from battle and exile. Daniel reached out to hold him steady, and again Serac whispered, "Hold me." Human. The bond was strange, fragile, yet real. Daniel felt the alien's body calm under his touch, its breathing growing steadier. It was as if the contact itself gave Serac life. As if human presence was medicine Daniel did not understand. But he could not turn away. Outside the shelter, footsteps passed, voices whispered. "Search every corner," a guard said. "The leaders demand answers." Daniel froze. His heart racing, Serac's eyes widened with fear. They both stayed silent, listening to boots scrape against the dirt outside. The guards moved on, but Daniel knew it was only a matter of time. Soon the colony would find out. Soon the hunters from the sky would arrive. He looked at Serac, broken yet still burning with something inside, and he wondered, am I protecting a danger or saving a friend? Days passed slowly, filled with tension and secrets. Daniel brought scraps of food. Serac spoke of distant worlds. He told stories of stars that burned like fire seas, of empires built on cruelty, and he told of the hunters, ruthless soldiers who would stop at nothing. "Why do you trust me?" Daniel finally asked one night. Serac's golden eyes glowed faintly in the dark. "Because you did not look at me with hate," he answered. "Among your people, I see something my own kind lost, but danger crept closer. Unseen yet heavy in the air, ships circled above. Lights flickered in the clouds. Broadcasts filled the colony speakers with cold words. The outcast hides among you, hand him over or face destruction." Fear spread like fire. Neighbors turned against each other. Some claimed to have seen the alien in shadows. Others swore Daniel acted strangely. The leaders announced stricter patrols. Guards walked the streets day and night. The noose was tightening, and Daniel felt it around his own neck. One evening, as he entered the shelter, he found Serac coughing blood. The alien's strength was almost gone, his body failing. "Without your touch I cannot last," Serac whispered. His voice shaking, Daniel knelt beside him, holding him close, refusing to let him fall. "Why me?" Daniel asked again, his voice almost breaking. Serac looked at him with tired yet burning eyes. "Because only humans can teach the stars what mercy means." The words struck Daniel deep, heavier than any weight he had carried before. Suddenly a noise outside shook the walls. Voices, footsteps, the sound of metal against metal. "Someone is in here," a guard shouted. "Open it now." Daniel's breath caught in his throat. Serac's weak hand grabbed his arm. The door rattled. The lock groaned. Shadows moved under the crack. Daniel had no time, no weapon, no plan. Only one truth remained: if they saw Serac, everything would be over. He tightened his hold on the alien, whispering, "I won't let them take you." The door began to creak open. Light spilling into the shelter. Guards stepping forward. Suspicion burning in their eyes, Daniel's heart pounded like thunder. Serac's breath came in weak gasps. The secret they had kept was about to be torn open. And in that moment, one question burned brighter than all. Would Daniel betray the outcast to save himself? Or would he fight the world to protect a bond that was never meant to exist? The shelter door opened with a loud creak, and the guards stepped inside. Their flashlights cut through the shadows. Landing on broken machines and dust, Daniel stood frozen, his body shielding Serac from their view. "Why are you here?" one guard demanded, his hand on his weapon. Daniel forced a weak smile. "Just fixing old tools," he said, his voice shook. But his words were steady enough to pass. The guards searched the room with sharp eyes, looking under crates and broken wires. For a long moment, Daniel thought they would see Serac. Hidden in the corner under the blanket, one guard kicked at the pile of scrap near the alien, but turned away. "Nothing here," he muttered. "Let's move to the next shelter." They left, the door slamming shut behind them, leaving Daniel trembling with relief. Serac's breathing was ragged, his golden eyes faint but alive. "You saved me again," Serac whispered. Daniel shook his head, sweat on his forehead. "I don't know how long I can keep this up." Outside, the sound of boots and voices filled the night. The search had grown larger, more desperate. The hunters from the stars must be near. The next day, the colony leaders gathered everyone in the square. Their voices boomed through speakers, heavy with fear and command. "People of the colony," the governor announced, "the alien outcast is hiding among us. If we do not hand it over, we risk the anger of its kind and the destruction of our home." The crowd erupted with shouts, anger and fear mixing together. "Find it," they cried. "Give it to them," others screamed. Daniel stood among them, his stomach twisting. His secret burning inside, every face he saw could become a threat, every neighbor a spy. At night, he returned to the shelter. His heart heavy, Serac looked weaker, his body shaking as though every breath cost too much. "They are closing in," Daniel said. "Soon they will find you." Serac's eyes glowed faintly. "If they find me, they will kill you too." The truth hit Daniel like a blade. By hiding Serac, he was not only risking himself, but the entire colony. The hunters would not care who died. "As long as the outcast was destroyed, why should I protect you?" Daniel asked bitterly. "Why should I sacrifice everything?" Serac closed his eyes, his voice soft. "Because I carry something more than myself, something that can save your people." Daniel leaned closer, confusion deepening. "Save us from what?" Serac's body shook as he whispered. "From the war that is coming." The words sank into Daniel like heavy stones. He thought of the colony, the families, the children. If Serac was telling the truth, then abandoning him could doom them all. Yet keeping him hidden felt impossible as the net of soldiers tightened around them. That night, Daniel heard engines in the sky. Through the clouds, dark ships hovered, their lights scanning the ground. A cold voice spoke through the colony's speakers. "The outcast is near, surrender him or suffer." Panic spread like fire. Doors slammed, people hid in fear. Daniel's neighbor, a bitter man named Cray, pointed fingers at him. "He has been acting strange," Cray told the guards. "Search his home." Daniel barely returned from the shelter before soldiers stormed his small room. They tore through his belongings, smashing furniture, spilling drawers, but they found nothing, and Daniel forced himself to remain calm. Still, suspicion grew, and whispers followed him wherever he walked. He knew it was only a matter of time before someone saw too much. Back in the shelter, Serac's voice grew weaker. "They are hunting me with no rest," he whispered. "Their ships will not stop until I am ash." Daniel clenched his fists. "Then we run," he said, though fear shook his words. Serac's eyes widened. "Run? Where can we go? There is no safe place in this world." Daniel looked around at the broken tools, the rusted machines, his mind raced, forming desperate plans, escape routes through old tunnels. He didn't know if any would work, but standing still meant death. "Then we try," he whispered. "Or we both die here outside." The colony streets grew tense, posters with warnings appeared, showing strange alien symbols. Rewards were offered to anyone who revealed the outcast's location. The walls of secrecy were collapsing, danger closing in on every side. One evening, as Daniel prepared to sneak food again, he noticed shadows following him. Two men whispered, their eyes locked on his every move. He took a longer path, circling through alleys, but he knew they would soon report him. Suspicion was already too deep. When he returned to Serac, he found the alien trembling. "I cannot last," Serac whispered. "My body is breaking." "I need you near." Daniel knelt, holding him close, feeling the strange calm return to Serac's chest. But even as the alien rested, Daniel's mind was full of dread. In the distance, alarms rang through the colony. The hunters had landed, their ships like shadows falling from the sky. The governor's voice filled the speakers again, louder, desperate. They are here. We must hand over the outcast or we are doomed. Daniel's heart raced as he held Serac tighter. The hunters had arrived, the search was over, the real danger was beginning, and now Daniel had to make a choice that could save or destroy them all. The colony trembled under the shadow of the alien ships. Their light swept across the sky like cold eyes searching for prey. Families locked their doors, children cried, and men whispered of surrender. Fear had turned the colony into a cage, and Daniel felt its bars closing around him. Inside the old shelter, Serac lay weak but still alive. Daniel sat beside him, his head heavy with worry and doubt. They are here now, Daniel said, his voice rough. We cannot hide much longer. Serac opened his golden eyes, glowing faintly in the dark, and spoke. They will not stop until I am gone. They will burn this place if they must. Daniel swallowed hard, anger mixing with fear. Then tell me why I should risk everything. Serac's body trembled, but his voice was steady. Because I carry knowledge your kind needs. He leaned closer, his words slow but sharp. Your people are not safe, Daniel, not from them, not from the war that is coming. Daniel felt the words pierce deeper than any blade. What war? He asked. What are you talking about? Serac's breath came heavy. My people believe they are the rightful rulers of the stars. They see humans as weak, as nothing but tools or slaves. His eyes darkened with pain. They will come for you soon, and only I know how to stop them. The shelter shook as engines roared overhead. Dust fell from the ceiling and Serac closed his eyes in pain. Daniel placed his hand on the alien's shoulder, steadying him. Again Serac whispered the words Daniel had heard before. Hold me. Human. A strange calm spread through Serac's body as Daniel kept his grip. It was more than comfort, it was survival itself. Serac explained in a faint voice. My kind bond through contact when you hold me. You give me strength. Daniel's heart raced, realizing how true those words were. The alien's breathing slowed, steadier. Why me? Daniel asked again, his voice cracking. Serac looked at him with tired but burning eyes. Because you have not turned away. Because you see me as more than a monster? Daniel said nothing, but in his chest something heavy grew. Not only fear but duty. He realized he was the only one standing between Serac and death. Outside, the governor's voice shouted through speakers. The alien must be found by nightfall, or they will destroy us all. Daniel knew the colony would soon tear itself apart with fear. Neighbors would betray neighbors. Friends would accuse friends, and suspicion would land on him. Later that night, Serac stirred, whispering again. There is something I must show you, he said. His voice weak but urgent, Daniel leaned closer, and Serac pressed his trembling hand to the human's forehead. For a moment, Daniel's vision blurred. His body frozen as strange images filled his mind. He saw burning worlds, skies filled with fire. He saw armies of Serac's people, ruthless, merciless, sweeping across the stars. He saw humans screaming, colonies burning, and Earth itself under siege. And then he saw something else. A secret, a hidden weapon, a chance to fight back. Daniel gasped, pulling away, his heart pounding in terror. What was that? He asked, his hands shaking. Serac's eyes glowed faintly. That is the truth I carry, the truth they fear. If I die, that knowledge dies with me, and your people will be slaves. Daniel staggered back, trying to breathe. The weight of what he had seen pressed on him like a mountain. It was no longer only about saving Serac, it was about saving his entire kind. But how could one human protect one alien when an empire wanted him dead? Outside, footsteps echoed loud and close. Daniel's blood ran cold as he heard voices. Guards speaking. We know someone is hiding it. The hunters demand answers by dawn. Daniel pressed his back against the shelter wall, his mind racing. Serac looked at him, his voice shaking. If you choose to abandon me now, I will not hate you, he said. You have already done more than I expected. More than any human would, but Daniel shook his head, his jaw tight. No, I can't leave you. Not now. The shelter lights flickered as the power grid strained under the hunters' ships. The colony outside was in chaos, some begging to surrender, others shouting to fight. But inside the dark shelter, Daniel and Serac sat in silence. The bond between them stronger, forged by fear, trust, and the secret of war. A sudden crash broke the silence. The door rattled and voices shouted from outside. Open this now. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. Sarak's weak hand grabbed his arm again. The bond flared once more, fragile yet unbroken. Daniel realized the truth in that moment. He was no longer just protecting a stranger. He was protecting humanity's last hope. If the guards broke through, everything would end. And in that terrifying silence, Daniel whispered, "We will not give you up." No matter the cost, the door began to crack under heavy blows. Shadows moved in the thin light, weapons ready. The hunters above circled closer, their ships like vultures waiting for death. And Daniel stood between the world and the secret in the dark, ready to face what came next. The pounding on the shelter door grew louder. Metal creaked, dust fell from the ceiling, and Daniel's heart raced like a hammer. He tightened his grip on Sarak, feeling the alien's weak body trembling. One more strike and the door would break. But then the noise stopped. Silence pressing heavy in the air. Daniel held his breath, waiting, wondering if the guards had left. A voice came through the crack, low and sharp. "I know you're in there, Daniel. Open up before I tell them everything." Daniel froze. His blood running cold, he recognized the voice. It was Cray. His bitter neighbor Cray had always envied him, always sneered at his work. Now the man's jealousy had found the perfect weapon. Daniel opened the door slightly, his face pale. Cray stood there smirking, his eyes glowing with triumph. "I knew you were hiding something," Cray whispered. "The whole colony will know soon." Daniel's hand shook. "Please, Cray, if they find him. They'll kill us both." Cray laughed bitterly. "Better you than me." "Daniel," he turned to leave, his voice rising. Ready to shout for the guards, desperation surged through Daniel. His chest burning, he lunged forward, grabbing Cray's arm, pulling him back inside. The two men struggled in the dark, fists striking, bodies slamming into walls. Sarak tried to rise, but his weak frame collapsed again. Daniel's anger gave him strength, his fists finally throwing Cray to the floor. "Listen to me," Daniel hissed. "If you tell them, the hunters will burn us all." But Cray only sneered, blood dripping from his lip. "They will burn us anyway. Unless we hand it over," he spat. Daniel's grip tightened, fear and fury mixing like fire before he could act. Sarak's weak voice cut through the chaos. "Let him go," Sarak whispered. "Violence will not save us." Daniel's hands shook. His breath ragged, but slowly he released Cray. The neighbor scrambled back, glaring at both of them. "You're doomed," he hissed and ran into the night. Daniel collapsed against the wall, his heart pounding. Sarak looked at him with faint glowing eyes. "You cannot hide me here any longer." Daniel nodded, sweat dripping from his face. "We have to run." "Tonight?" Sarak's voice was weak but steady. "Then we run." Under the cover of darkness, Daniel helped Sarak to his feet. The alien leaned heavily on him, each step a battle. They slipped out through the old maintenance tunnels under the colony. The air was damp, the walls shaking as the hunters' ships roared above. Every sound echoed like thunder in Daniel's ears. Every shadow felt like a soldier waiting to strike. Sarak whispered directions, guiding him through the twisting paths. "Left here," he said. "Down this way," his voice breaking with exhaustion. Behind them, voices echoed. Torches flickered in the tunnels. The guards were searching, and Cray's betrayal had already spread. Daniel's chest tightened as he heard his own name shouted in anger. "They know," he whispered. "They're hunting us now." Hours passed like minutes, each step heavier than the last. Sarak's strength faded. His legs nearly giving way, Daniel lifted him, carrying the alien on his back. "Hold on," he whispered. "Don't let go." At last they reached the surface beyond the colony walls. The wasteland stretched before them. Endless rock and dust, cold winds tore at their faces, and the night sky glowed with the hunters' ships above. For a moment, Daniel felt the weight of hopelessness crush him. Then Sarak pointed weakly to the horizon. "There is a cave system there, old and hidden. They will not find us easily." Daniel nodded, his legs burning, his body screaming for rest. But he pushed forward, each step driven by more than survival. Behind them, alarms blared from the colony. The governor's voice echoed through the speakers. "The human Daniel has betrayed us. He shelters the outcast." Daniel's name now cursed across the colony he had once called home. His people no longer saw him as one of them, but as a traitor. The betrayal cut deep, sharper than Cray's words, but Daniel held Sarak tighter, refusing to give in to despair. If the colony wanted to brand him as an enemy, then so be it. He would not abandon the one who trusted him. At the edge of the wastelands, they stumbled into the cave. Darkness swallowed them, the air cool and damp. Daniel set Serac down gently, his own body shaking with exhaustion. For a moment, silence filled the cavern, broken only by Serac's labored breathing. "You risked everything for me," Serac whispered weakly. Daniel shook his head. "No, I risked it because I believe in you." Serac's golden eyes glowed faintly, tears forming in their corners. "You are more human than my own kind ever were," he said. Outside, the roar of engines shook the ground. The hunters had arrived at the colony, demanding their prize. Daniel knew it was only a matter of time before they spread their search. But here in the dark, in the hidden cave, he had bought them a little time. He looked at Serac, broken but still alive, and in that moment he swore to himself, no matter the cost, he would protect this bond, because now it was no longer only about survival. It was about proving that even in betrayal, humanity could still choose loyalty. The cave was silent except for Serac's shallow breaths. Daniel leaned against the rough wall, his body aching, his eyes heavy. Outside, the sky glowed red with the engines of the hunters' ships. They circled like predators, searching for the scent of their prey. Daniel looked at Serac, broken and pale. "You can't run anymore," he whispered. "Your body won't last." Serac opened his golden eyes, faint but burning with determination. "Then we do not run," he said softly. "We make our stand here." Daniel frowned, shaking his head. "Fight them? With what?" "I have no weapons, no army, nothing but these hands." Serac raised a trembling arm, pointing deeper into the cave. "There is something hidden here, something left long ago. A relic of war." They moved slowly through the darkness. Daniel carried Serac on his back, each step echoing on the stone floor. The tunnel widened, and before them lay a vast chamber. Old machines, broken armor, and strange weapons glimmered in the faint light. Serac's voice grew steadier. "My kind once fought battles here. Centuries ago, when the war ended, the dead were buried, and their tools abandoned." Daniel stared at the alien technology. "Cold and deadly. This is madness," he whispered. "But maybe it's our only chance." They worked through the night, Daniel's hands shaking as he lifted heavy parts. Serac guided him, his mind still sharp even as his body failed. Together they assembled a defense crude but powerful, a trap of old energy cannons and shields buried in stone. As dawn approached, the roar of engines grew louder. The hunters had followed their trail into the wastelands. Daniel stood at the cave's mouth, sweat on his brow, his heart pounding. This was no longer just about hiding, it was about defiance. Serac leaned on the wall, his body trembling. "Daniel, listen," he said, his voice low but urgent. "If I give you my strength, you can fight them, but it will cost me everything." Daniel turned sharply. "No, I won't let you sacrifice yourself." Serac's golden eyes glowed faintly, filled with sorrow and resolve. "You have already risked all for me, but if I fall without passing my power, my knowledge dies with me." Daniel felt his chest tighten. "Torn between fear and duty," Serac whispered again. The same plea as before, "Hold me, human." Daniel placed his arms around him, and a surge of heat rushed through his body. It felt like fire and lightning flooding his veins. Visions filled his mind, battlefields, stars burning, alien tactics and codes. Knowledge poured into him, heavy and overwhelming when Daniel pulled back. His body shook with energy. His hands glowed faintly with power he had never known. Serac collapsed to the floor, weaker than before. "Now you can stand against them," Serac whispered. "Now you can fight." Outside, the ground shook as hunters landed. Dark figures stepped from their ships, armored and armed. Their leader, taller and stronger than the rest, raised his voice. "Outcast, surrender yourself, or we will burn this world to ash." Daniel stood at the mouth of the cave, his body glowing faintly. "I will not surrender him," he shouted, his voice carrying across the wasteland. The hunters laughed, their weapons raised. "You are only human, weak and small, you cannot stand against us." But Daniel did not back down. The old cannons hummed, powered by Serac's guidance. Energy shields flickered to life around the cave. For the first time, the hunters paused, uncertain. The leader snarled, "Then die with him." The first blast of energy shot toward Daniel, but the shield held, light flashing as sparks rained down. Daniel raised his own hand, and a bolt of power struck back. The hunters staggered. Surprised by the human strength, Daniel's heart raced, fear and courage clashing inside him. Each movement felt unnatural, yet guided, as if Serac's spirit moved through him. The battle had begun, and there was no turning back. Inside the cave, Serac lay still, his breath shallow, his voice echoed weakly. "Fight for both of us, Daniel. Show them what a human can be." Daniel gritted his teeth, standing tall against the storm. The hunters advanced in formation, their weapons glowing red. The wasteland shook with blasts and fire. Daniel fired the cannons, each shot tearing through enemy ranks. But for every hunter that fell, more appeared. Their ships loomed above, raining fire on the rocky ground. Dust filled the air. Smoke burned Daniel's lungs. His arms ached, his legs trembled, but he did not stop. Behind him was Serac. Behind him was hope. And in his chest burned something more powerful than fear. Defiance. The leader charged, his blade glowing with alien energy. Daniel met him head-on, sparks flying as power clashed against power. The force threw him back, but Daniel rose again. His jaw set. He would not break. He would not bend. Not here. Not now. Above, the sky burned red, ships circling like vultures. The ground cracked under the weight of war, and at the heart of it, one human stood with the strength of two, ready to make a last stand that would echo across the stars. The wasteland shook with fire and thunder. Daniel stood at the mouth of the cave, his body glowing faintly with borrowed strength. The hunters circled him, their armor dark, their weapons sparking with deadly light. Behind him, Serac lay weak and fading, but his golden eyes never left Daniel. The alien leader raised his blade, a weapon forged from pure energy. "You are only human," the leader hissed. "Step aside or be crushed like dust." Daniel's breath came heavy, his body bruised, his hands trembling. But his voice was steady, louder than the storm. "I will not let you take him." The hunters attacked in unison, beams of red fire cutting through the air. Daniel moved with speed that felt unnatural. Guided by Serac's knowledge, he blocked, deflected, and struck back. Each motion burning through his strength. The old cannons hidden in the cave roared again, tearing holes in the enemy lines, but for every hunter that fell, more pressed forward. Their ships rained fire. The ground split and burned. Daniel stumbled, his knees shaking, his strength fading with every strike, yet still he stood. Because Serac's trust held him upright, the leader charged, his blade striking against Daniel's glowing hands. The clash sent a shockwave through the wasteland. Rocks splitting, air trembling. Daniel fell to one knee, pain burning through him like fire. The leader laughed. "See, human, you cannot win." Inside the cave, Serac forced himself to rise, his body broken, every movement filled with agony. He whispered, "Daniel, do not stop. You must fight, you must live." Daniel turned, seeing the alien stumble toward him, his eyes glowing faintly in the smoke. The hunters paused, their eyes narrowing at the sight of the outcast. The leader raised his blade high, ready to strike Serac down, but Daniel surged forward. His body fueled by desperation, he blocked the strike, sparks raining across the battlefield. The force threw him back, his body crashing against the stone. Blood filled his mouth, his vision blurred, his strength almost gone, but Serac crawled to his side, weak hands clutching his arm. "Hold me, human," he whispered. Once more, Daniel wrapped his arms around him, and the bond flared alive. Heat and light surged through them both. Visions flashed again, stars, battles, hope, and unity. Serac's life force pouring into Daniel. "Burning bright, take it," Serac whispered, his voice fading. "Take everything I have." Daniel shook his head, tears in his eyes. "No, you'll die," Serac smiled weakly. "Better I die giving life than live watching hope fade." His body glowed, light spilling from his golden eyes like fire. Daniel cried out as the power surged into him. The hunters stumbled back, shielding their faces from the blinding glow. When the light faded, Daniel stood tall, his body blazing with energy. Serac lay motionless on the ground, his strength given away. The alien leader roared, charging with fury. Daniel met him head-on, his fists glowing with Serac's final gift. Their clash shook the earth, light exploding across the battlefield. For a moment, all sound vanished, replaced by blinding silence. When the dust cleared, the hunters lay broken, their ships retreating. The leader fell to the ground, defeated, his blade shattered. Daniel stood above him, chest heaving, body trembling with exhaustion. "You will not rule us," he said, his voice cold as stone. The surviving hunters fled, their ships vanishing into the clouds. The wasteland fell silent again. Broken only by the crackle of burning fires, Daniel turned back toward the cave, his heart heavy, his legs weak. There on the stone floor, Serac lay still, his golden eyes dim. Daniel knelt beside him, lifting the alien gently. You saved me, Daniel whispered. His voice breaking. Serac's lips moved faintly. His voice barely a breath. No, Daniel, you saved me. You saved us both. Tears blurred Daniel's vision as he held Serac close. You can't leave me now, not after everything, he begged. Serac's faint smile lingered, his hand resting on Daniel's arm. Remember, human, mercy is stronger than fear. Hope is stronger than war. His body grew lighter in Daniel's arms, fading like dust in the wind. The glow in his golden eyes flickered one last time, and with his final breath, Serac whispered again, You held me, human. And that was enough. Daniel pressed his forehead against the aliens. The tears fell freely, mixing with the dust and ash around them. The cave was silent, but in that silence, Daniel felt something alive, a promise, a bond that even death could not erase. Outside, the colony was still in chaos. The governor and the people would soon learn of what had happened. They would see that one human had stood against the hunters and lived. They would see that the outcast had not brought ruin, but salvation. Daniel rose, carrying Serac's still body in his arms. He walked into the dawn light, his face scarred, his spirit unbroken. The sky was clear now, the hunters gone. But Daniel knew this was only the beginning. The war Serac warned of was still coming. But now humanity had a chance to stand. A chance to fight, and deep inside, Daniel carried Serac's gift, his strength, his memory. The bond that began with 3 words would live forever. Hold me, human, Daniel whispered into the morning air, and he swore he would never let go.